Hey everyone, this is PM Sport Talk, the father and son duo podcast. I'm your host Preston, alongside my father Mike and Dad. How are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Great day yesterday for Steelers Nation. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Indeed, there were a lot of good games over the weekend, whether you look at college, whether you look at the pros. So yeah, I'll let you kick us off here, Dad. What would you like to start with?
Probably the biggest game was the Georgia-Mississippi. Well, it is. If you go by name, it's Alabama, LSU. But if you go by the strength of the teams, I would say Georgia-Mississippi. That would be my favorite, been my biggest game of the weekend. And, I just can't figure out this Georgia team. 1 week, they go in and blitz Texas. And then the next week, they struggle against Florida, barely beat them. And then they lose this weekend to Mississippi.
Yeah.
Their offense just isn't doing anything. Carson Beck has regressed. Offensive line's not as good as it usually is. They're not running the football like they usually do. I think we just got to come to the realization that maybe Georgia's just not that good this year. Everybody keeps saying that, they're still the best team. They're still the best team. Don't go by their record, but
They definitely are, and there were, after the game, a lot of media issues here. Like, the media, the actual broadcast of the game captured Carson Beck on the sideline after throwing, like, the game-losing pick laughing. I'm just laughing.
I saw that, and I'm like, we don't know the context of what's going on there.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just one of those it's like, oh, geez. Sometimes you just, like, laugh it off because you just don't have any words, but it's not a good look, though, right? It's just not a good look.
And there was another one I saw this morning where Kirby Smart got asked in an interview about one of his players. One of his players, Jake Pope, I think, he was a defensive back. He was caught on camera jumping up and down with another Ole Miss fan. But this wasn't just like some random fan he was doing it with. This was actually a childhood friend of his. That he was jumping up and down with. After they lost the game, they stormed the field. But Kirby wasn't too happy. He was just saying, like, wow, that was pretty stupid and what an idiot, all that stuff.
He said that. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't use those words if I was a coach, but I don't blame him for being upset about it because if I was a Georgia fan, I'd be like, does this guy even care? Does he play? Do you know, or is he just like a backup?
I'm not sure. I haven't really heard of him, so probably.
Yeah, I wonder. But still, it makes you think if maybe this Georgia team just isn't. Maybe there's talent. The talent. It's Georgia. There's talent there, obviously, but maybe they just don't have the fire that the other teams have. They just don't have that will to win. There's just something missing. I don't know what it is. Like I said, the offensive line's not doing what they normally do. They can't run the ball. Beck's throwing a ton of interceptions. They play Tennessee this coming weekend, and if they lose, they might be out of the playoff. They're gonna have 3 losses. That could be it for them.
Yeah.
I didn't think looking a few weeks ago when I was looking forward to this game coming up. I was like, that's going to be a big game for Tennessee,
Yeah.
But actually, Tennessee could lose that game and still be fine.
What's their record?
I think they only have the 1 loss, right?
Really? Who they lose to?
Who did they lose to? It was a team they should have beaten.
Man.
Did they lose that? No, they beat Alabama. Who did they lose to?
I'm about to double check. Let's have our producer Chad get on it. Let's see. Who did Tennessee lose to? Let's see. They lost to Arkansas. There it is right there.
Oh, yeah, it's a bad loss.
But they've won every other game against the bigger opponents. So I honestly think I would favor Tennessee in this one.
Is it in Tennessee too, or is it at Georgia?
It's at that changes a little bit.
It's at Georgia, but yeah, still. But I think they can lose that game and they'll still in the playoff hunt. Where if Georgia loses that game, I think they're done.
This is a must-win game for Georgia right here.
Yeah, and I didn't think that would be the case. I thought it would be the other way around. But you're starting to see now how the SEC is just stacked. So you're getting good teams that are going to have 3 losses. But just a disappointment for Georgia. But Ole Miss, they're looking pretty good now. So I don't know. This college football playoff, you're gonna have probably 5 teams in the SEC
that SEC is stacked this year.
that
You got teams like Bama, obviously, Texas, obviously. Then you got Tennessee. You got, I think, A&M still in the conversation. They only have 2 losses.
Yep.
Georgia's still in it, of course. Unless they lose this week, then it kind of gets like, what do you think?
Yeah. Then you got Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, yep. How much loss do they have? 2?
2. I think their schedule's pretty favorable. Alabama's going to be in the playoff. They have 2 losses.
Wait, was it Ole Miss who lost to LSU? Was that their last loss?
Yeah.
Oh my, because this is just kicking in my brain now. Jackson Dart, after that loss to LSU, had an interview, and he's like, "We got to win out. It's the only way we have a shot." And right now, it's looking really good for them after that win against Georgia.
Yeah, because I think their schedule is pretty favorable. I don't know who they have left, but a couple 2-loss teams going into the they've got Florida, Mississippi State. I mean, yeah, they got Florida, Mississippi State. They're gonna win those 2 games, so they're gonna have 2 losses. There's a good chance you could have both teams that play in that conference championship game have 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
So then the loser is gonna have 3.
Right.
So there's probably going to be a 3-loss team in the playoff out of the SEC.
Yeah.
I just don't see any way around it.
If it's Georgia, though, losing this week, they don't have a shot.
No. Alabama's only has 2 losses.
So that third loss, if they want to make it, has to come in the SEC championship game.
Yes, the third loss would have to come in there. If you have 3 losses and you're not in that game,
you're done. Yeah,
you're not
making it.
You're not making it. So that's crazy. And then the other game, Alabama LSU, was just a complete waste of time.
And yeah, LSU's done now. They don't have any shot. And the thing that comes from it, though, of course, there's something. Do fans just think it's like okay now? It's reasonable to throw stuff on the field whenever stuff doesn't go your way. I mean, you're acting like toddlers.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, once they do it one place, they're going to do it
It's a
somewhere else.
copycat thing now. And honestly, I think some of it's on the NCAA because once Texas did it first, they overturned that. So now that's given the fans, it's not directly their fault, but like now with that, it's giving those fans like, hey, maybe if we do the same thing, it's going our way. But the thing LSU did it over for, that was the most easiest call. Like, I think like a blind person could see that. The face mask.
Yeah, it was obvious. That was just, I don't know what they were thinking there. The fans.
It's been going on through ever since Texas did it, like at least once a week.
If it keeps up, it's probably not something they can do right now. I mean, maybe they can. I don't think so.
No.
But going into next season, they're going to have to put it in. Hey, if fans throw stuff on the field from the home team, it's going to get a 15-yard penalty or something like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be that.
You gotta have like a interference penalty or something with the fans.
There has to be a consequence, or the fans are just going to keep doing it. Otherwise, you can't. They're just going to keep doing it.
It kind of brings you to like where the Bills, like whenever it's snowy out, they throw snowballs at the players. No, you remember when they always do that?
Yeah.
Like last year, especially in that Miami game, or maybe 2 years ago, where they freaking were just chucking snowballs at Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, all that. And they did that for like the rest of the season. I mean, it's snowballs. It's a lot different than trash, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like that same thing.
It's similar, yeah. It's yeah, you're gonna have to do something because if they keep doing it, then I know in college basketball, if the fans do something like that, they get one warning over the loudspeaker,
Mm-hmm.
and if it happens again, then it's a technical foul. So the other team gets to shoot technical fouls. So
Yeah.
they're gonna have to do something like that in college football if it keeps up. Otherwise, they're just gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, it's got to be like a 15-yarder, though, because
Yeah.
it's a lot different. You can't just, like, award points.
No, you can't give them points, but like I say, it's got to be a penalty of some
Yeah.
kind. Whatever. But, yeah. Other than that, there wasn't much going on in college football.
Not
The
really.
other upset was Miami losing to Georgia Tech. That's a big one, too.
Yeah, but Miami is that they had that coming. Let's be honest.
It's not a surprise. No.
Georgia Tech has not been a bad team. The record doesn't say that they aren't a bad team, but you know what I mean. Like they're not that team that you go and be like, "Hey, easy win."
Yeah, no, they're better than their record says.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a tough team, and
Also, Florida State. That brings me to Florida State actually, like how Norvell is firing everyone and getting ready for the next season. That is just a disaster compared to last year.
yeah, just go from undefeated to like one win. It's just unheard of. You don't see that in college football
No.
for a big time program like Florida State. It's just unheard of. I guess it's just a different time in college football with the transfer portal and all that. You're going to see stuff like this once in a while, I guess. More, you never saw that in the past.
No.
I mean, yeah, you might have a team like Florida State have a bad year, but a bad year is like 6 wins. That's a bad year. Not one.
And 9 losses. Like, geez.
Yeah, I mean, just crazy how it is. But college football it's been really hard to predict this year because other than Oregon, and even they're not a great. I just don't think there's that really, really good team. There's a lot of good teams, but I don't know. It's just a tough. That's why I think this playoff is going to be great because I think all those teams are kind of evenly matched.
I want to say one thing. I think Indiana is not. They haven't played anyone. Of course, they're undefeated, but they haven't played anyone.
No, they haven't. But
They play Ohio State in 2 weeks. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, that's a big game for them. But they're gonna, as long as they compete in that game, and don't get blown out, they're gonna be in the playoff.
Yeah.
If they get absolutely waxed in that game, then there's a chance they might not make it. But I don't know if they drop how far they'll drop. But
I don't think we've I don't know. You can see literally anything in the committee like last year. Like they booted Florida State out because they had an injury, a significant one.
I'm kind of curious to who's going to. I mean, I guess it'll be a lot. It depends on that game. Who's going to be in the Big Ten final?
Yeah.
I mean, if Indiana wins that, they're going to be in the final with Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose, you probably have it'll be a rematch of Ohio State. And you look at next week's schedule in college football, it's absolutely horrible. There's one game, Tennessee and Georgia. That's it. None of the other games are any good. Not one good game.
Well, on paper.
As far as matchups go, yeah, brutal. I mean, I'm not saying there won't be some close games pop up, but if you look at it, just looking at it, there's no good matchups other than that one. And so, but like I said, in a couple of weeks we have some good ones. So,
Alabama has a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. I looked at their schedule the other day. They play
nobody.
Mercer and some other school. Auburn. That's who it is.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's not good, but
that game's always good.
It's a rivalry, so you never know.
I mean, last year, just look at it. It took a 31-yard Hail Mary to win.
Yeah.
So.
But last year it was in Auburn, right?
Yeah. So this year
it's always that game is usually good when it's in Auburn, but when it's in Alabama almost always,
kills them.
Not necessarily kills them, but it's not as, it's comfortable, for Alabama.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we're going to transition now to the NFL, and we will start with Lions-Texans because that will be what our trivia question is for today.
Yeah, so you want to get into the game first, or you want to just do the trivia question?
We'll get the trivia out of the way then.
All right, so last night's game, Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, and somehow the Lions still won the game. That's happened 2 other times in the last 30 years, where a quarterback has thrown 5 interceptions and the team still won.
All right.
You name those 2 quarterbacks.
Peyton Manning?
He's not one of them. But let me give you a little hint.
Okay.
Both of these quarterbacks are commentators now. But be careful. Think of quarterbacks that are commentators that would throw 5 interceptions. So that probably should leave one guy out of it.
Brady.
Yeah, he's not him.
Yeah. Okay. Romo.
Romo's one.
Okay. Aikman.
Nope.
Ooh. Okay.
He's kind of he's a commentator, but he's kind of obscure. He does. I'm trying to think. He was in the pregame too, but I think he's more of a commentator now on the game. So
CBS. So he recently retired, you said?
recently retired. Yeah.
This guy's on a pregame? Oh, Matt Ryan?
Matt Ryan. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure what he kind of bounces back and forth, doesn't he? Wasn't he on the pregame last year?
He bounces back and forth. Yeah. He was last year. I don't even know. He's like in a 3-man booth.
Yeah. So.
And then this year he's like mainly a pregame guy.
Pregame guy. Yeah. So yeah, Matt Ryan and Tony Romo, which I did not know. I don't remember those games of that, either one of them throwing that many interceptions, but yeah.
Wow. So and it's cool that they're both in analysts some sort of way.
Yeah.
You know? That did give it away kind of, but that's cool. But yeah, how in the world do the Texans find a way to lose this game? That's the big question.
You know, it was 23-7 at the half for Houston.
Right.
And I was, laying in bed. I'm like, I got to get to sleep. I got to get up for work. But I couldn't stop watching because all of a sudden Detroit just kept kind of like inching their way back.
Yeah.
And then they just found a way. Defense held the Texans down. And then that kicker, 2 big kicks.
How about that last one? That one, like the post and the ball was going.
Both of them were like that.
Nah, but like that last one, that barely went through.
If you look at
it was like right here.
The first one was the same. It was just on the other side.
Really?
One was right on the right, and then the other one was on the left. They both barely made it, but great. Go from kicking in the what league? AFL, XFL,
something like
whatever
that.
It was.
Yeah.
Detroit brings him in. He didn't even play football in high school.
Really?
He played soccer. And then in college, I don't know where he went to college. He was like just a kickoff guy. Kickoff specialist, they called him. And then he ends up being a kicker in one of those leagues, XFL or whatever it was. And then now he's a big time kicker on what might be a Super Bowl team. It's an amazing story for him. But yeah, that game is a game that the Detroit Lions, up until last year and this year, lose every time.
Yeah.
When their quarterback throws 5 interceptions, that a Detroit Lion team in the past loses that game 40-10. And this is just different now. This team is different. They can overcome mistakes like that from the quarterback. Their defense is they're missing their best defensive player, but they're opportunistic. They just find a way. They had some of their own interceptions and stuff, and they just found a way to win. And to me,
I think it's the coaching.
The
Lions have never really had like a coach that like, I don't know, motivates the guys like Dan Campbell does.
No, he's big time. That, like you say, they've always never had a good coach that I can remember ever. And
it's really, I give props to the Lions for keeping him after that pretty bad season where they only won like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, that was the best move they made because, he's a difference maker. Yeah, he might have that boneheaded time where he goes for 4th down when he shouldn't.
Yeah.
That still would worry me a little bit in the playoffs.
But that does show you something, how, like, he believes that his guys can get it done.
He believes in them, and that's why, I mean, it says it all. I mean, they know that he has their back and believes in them, and they play that way. And like I said, they would never win that game in the past. But
no.
Now you almost expect them to win.
Yeah. You almost expect them, like, hey, they got to get back to like competing in this game, don't they?
You kind of felt, I mean, at least I did watching that, kind of felt like they were going to get back in that game. And I would never have said that about the Detroit Lions before even, maybe not even last year, but now I do. And they're the team to beat in the NFC by far. Yeah.
The NFC's not very good. It's like, it's weird. The AFC has become a lot better and more tough to play in than the NFC.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in the AFC. I will say this. I do think you're going to hear from San Francisco before the season's over.
Yeah.
They're starting to get healthy. If McCaffrey gets back to close to what he was last year, they're going to be a tough team. So,
what do you think about? I'm glad you brought him up because I forgot that the cameras caught. I don't know if you saw it, but the cameras caught Deebo Samuel after Moody missed his third kick of the day, choking out the long snapper, or kind of like shoved him like that.
Yeah,
Did you see that?
I did see that.
It's ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of like stuff to say about it. I mean, like he said himself in an interview, yeah, that was a really out of character moment, and all the fans were like, that does look like an in character moment for guys like Deebo Samuel, but
I get his frustration because they've had a lot of issues with kicking. Over the years.
Yeah.
Remember Moody? He missed a bunch of kicks last year.
Yeah.
Games that they should have won, but he did when it came playoff time. He was good.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch enough of that game to see was there bad snaps or was it just the Moody was missing them?
No, it was just he was missing them, man.
So why is he going after the long snap?
Well, what I thought would make sense is probably the cameras didn't get there to see Deebo. Knowing him, he's probably opening his mouth to Moody, and then the long snap probably didn't like that, so he started like saying, "Hey, let's knock it off, leave him alone."
You're probably right. Yeah,
it's stuff, and then Deebo probably didn't like him talking back to him, so gave him a little shove.
Yeah, that's probably more what it was. Yeah, I mean, I get his frustration, but you do that to your kicker, then he's going to have no confidence.
Right.
So
if you're going to go up to your kicker and like say something to him when he's missing kicks, you better be like motivating him and not telling him criticizing stuff or like telling him, "Hey, let's get it in. Like you're playing like terrible right now or whatever." Like that's not going to help him. Kicking is like most of the time a mental game.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like Deebo who plays physical football where you just got to get more physical, and kicking is different.
Yeah.
He has the talent. It's like golf. It's mental.
Yeah.
So you can't if you get into his head, you're going to mess him up even more. And yeah, if I was the coach, I wouldn't have liked that. I'm sure, I don't know how Shanahan runs his business, but if I was him, I'm sure he probably said something to him behind closed doors, like, "Hey, that's not going to help us,
Yeah.
Let's just worry about our play and let him worry about his play."
He got a lot of criticism, too, for doing that because you know what Deebo has on this side of his shoulder, on his jersey?
I didn't know.
A captain patch.
Oh, he is the captain?
One of the captains.
He's one of the captains. Yeah, that's not a good look.
No.
Maybe he shouldn't be a captain.
Clearly, I don't even know why he was given that in the first place. He's known for, like...
high-headedness, yeah.
Yeah.
Is Purdy a captain?
I don't know, but I feel like he should be.
He probably should be. He's level-headed.
Him and Kittle on the offense, I would give them the captains. Trent Williams, he's good, but like, geez, he's sometimes.
I'd give it to.
He has easy temper.
Maybe he already is a captain. Is McCaffrey a captain?
Yeah, he should be captain too if he's not already.
Him and Purdy.
There's so much guys you should give it to that
not
are
Deebo.
not him. No,
Yeah, no.
He has too much behavior issues.
Yeah, it's not a good look. But they might. But they get the win yesterday, and like I said, I would be shocked if you don't hear from them before the season's over.
Yeah. All right, and the game of the week, Dad. We got the Steelers and the Commanders.
What a nail biter! That was a tough one to watch because at the beginning of the game, I'm like, yeah, Steelers are up 14-7. They're doing good, except for that boneheaded fake punt that they ran from their own 10-yard line, which should have worked. It was there. It was going to work, but I don't understand taking the chance because at that time you were
leading 7-0.
You were leading 7-0, and you were the better team.
If it was at like the 50-yard line, I'd be like, you know what, fine, that's fine. It was a great, but you were like in your side, you're like your own 20.
I mean, I get it. Part of the reason why it works is because you are there and they don't expect it.
Yeah.
So I get that, and in all intents and purposes, it was there. He just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
But it's a risk that you don't usually see them do.
Right. It's not. It's like out of character.
Yeah, and to Mike Tomlin's credit, he owned it.
Yeah.
He owned both things that he messed up yesterday. He messed up the coin toss at the beginning of the game when they, instead of deferring so they could have the ball coming out of the second half, he took the ball, and he said afterwards that probably wasn't the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd also owned the fake punt, which you don't see a lot of coaches do.
Right.
So I give him credit for that. I mean, it's easier to do after a win to own things like that. I don't know if after a loss, if you own it, but no harm, no foul. But anyway, getting back to the game, they're up 14-7. They're looking good, and then all of a sudden the Commanders, start to take over.
Yeah.
Get back to 14-10.
And then the game, we're going to fast forward a little bit because there was a lot of scoring that went on. The Steelers were about to go down the field. It was 21-27 late in the game. Jaylen Warren gets a handoff. He's like down at the 1 yard line. It took a while to notice it, but he ended up fumbling the ball at the 1 yard line, and it was recovered by Jeremy Chin of Washington.
I know when that happened, I'm like, oh, is that it? There was still quite a bit of time left.
And then there you see the Steelers getting the ball back and giving them another chance. And Mike Williams, the receiver that Aaron Rodgers blamed, the receiver that everyone around the Jets was like, what Aaron Rodgers says goes. You're not going to play much. The Steelers go out and trade for him before the trade deadline. His only reception, his only target, 32-yard touchdown for the win.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That's what they got him for, is those plays just like that. Deep balls, jump balls. I mean, now they got two guys. They got Pickens on one side and Williams on the other, and sure looked good for that game.
And let's go to the interview earlier in the season. Let's play that so you guys have a little bit of context. When he was still at the Jets and Rodgers threw a game-losing pick, Williams got the blame.
It's got to be down the red line.
So were you throwing that to come back to it?
No, I was throwing it to the red line, but when I got to about here, I realized he was running in breaker, so I had to kind of adjust it a little bit. But the play is two guys vertical, one guy down the seam, one guy on the red line.
So, with that being said, Dad, with Mike Williams running the wrong route against the Bills, according to Aaron Rodgers, and for those who didn't really understand, if you're kind of like a basic football fan, a red line is what teams use to help out the receivers to know where they go on the field on a 9 route, which is going deep, straight deep, a long route. So the quarterback throws it deep. And Mike Williams, fast forward to this week, catches the game-winning pass, and I thought this is pretty funny and cool. On his Instagram, he posts his first post after playing a game with the Steelers, and one of his hashtags he used was #redline, which was a little bit of a shot at Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that was a well-deserved shot at Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a quarterback do that to a receiver before, throw him under the bus like that.
Yeah.
And he did that because he didn't want to take the blame for it. I mean, maybe it's just Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers because, he thinks he's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
But that was so good for Steelers fans and so good for Mike Williams. He went from a losing team to now a winning team.
And he helps the team get their signature. Is it the 7th or 8th win this year?
7th win of the season.
7th win of the season, and Mike Williams, big reason why.
Yeah, great play. And the commentators, Charles Davis, was saying how happy that Mike Williams has been all week. He just loves being there, and the culture is so much different. And
when you go from a quarterback like Rodgers to Wilson, you feel a lot more comfortable, I feel like, because Wilson's known for being a leader and understanding.
Yeah, Rodgers is just all about himself.
Yeah.
And he's a diva, and the Jets are just the Jets. That's what they are. They're losing culture.
And I feel like when you have a head coach like Mike Tomlin, that helps a lot too, because the Jets don't have a head coach right now.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I mean, they're just a mess, and it was good to see that he got the last laugh at Aaron Rodgers, because that was well deserved, because he didn't deserve what happened to him. Yes, he may have messed up that route in that game.
You don't shame him in front of the world though,
But
in an interview.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and so he got the last laugh, and it's good for him, and it's good for us. I wasn't sure about the trade, but you know what? I think he's going to help us.
And another trade we didn't make one, we made two. Preston Smith. He played a pretty good game. Obviously nothing notable, but with Alex Highsmith, going down with an ankle injury earlier or late in the game, it does show that trade is going to be huge for us, knowing that we have a solid guy like Preston Smith to fill in for him.
Yeah, big. I mean, he played quite a bit yesterday. He gives us that quality backup, and like you said, now that Highsmith got hurt again, who knows how long he's going to be out this time? I don't even know. Yeah, I didn't see anything today, so I don't know if it's super serious. Is he going to have surgery, or is it just something that's going to take a few weeks?
Yeah.
I have no idea. His ankle. So they got Preston Smith, and Nick Herbig might be back this week against Baltimore. So hopefully, the hope is that you'll have three good guys at all times, with Watt and the other three rotating. So if one guy gets hurt, you're going to have decent guys out there. Whereas last time we had that problem, we didn't have any quality backups. Well, now we do. And Preston Smith is not going to wow you anymore. I mean, he was a monster at one time, but he's still a solid player. He sets the edge, plays the run well, like Highsmith did. Highsmith played the run really well. You notice when he's not in there, teams do run the ball on us a little bit. When he is in there, they don't. He gets the sacks, but the thing that goes unnoticed is his run-stopping ability, and I think you get that with Preston Smith. So good pickup by the Steelers, and I think it'll pay dividends going forward.
One thing I will give the Commanders credit for is that guy in your jersey, T.J. Watt. Dan Quinn and Washington had a really good game plan against him. You didn't hear his name at all. It was mainly the chipping that was getting him. He
was getting times triple teamed.
Yeah.
There was one play I watched where the wide receiver came right into him. I mean, he didn't, and then he got hit by one lineman and then another lineman, three guys. But you know what? When the game was getting down, when the Steelers needed to make some stops, guess what he was doing? After not doing anything all game, just taking on the blockers the best he could, he gets in there, deflects the pass from Daniels. He had some other pressures on there, so he was able to make his presence known.
And you can't go watch that game without giving credit also to Cameron Hayward. He played in a phenomenal game.
He had a big sack there.
He had 2 sacks in that game.
Yep.
And I think he had one or two batted passes too.
He did have one, and it was almost an interception.
By Watt.
So, yeah. Other guys stepped up because that's probably what teams are going to do. They're going to put 2 guys on Watt, 2 or sometimes 3, and just hope that the other guys can block their guys one-on-one. So you're going to need other guys to come up big on that defensive line, and yesterday they did. I think that's a difference in this year's team compared to last year and the year before, where I really feel like last year it was Watt or bust.
Yeah.
If he didn't make big plays, then our defense gave up big plays.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that's the case this year.
We addressed that issue very well this offseason and in the trade deadline. So
I feel much better about that going forward. I really do. I'm not saying we're going to be in the Super Bowl, but I really think we're going to compete pretty well in the playoffs.
I think so too. It's going to be. I feel like I'm a lot more confident than I have been in these past couple of years.
By far.
By far, yeah.
Absolutely.
So our last segment before we get into plays of the week, we are introducing best performance and the most disappointment, or the biggest disappointment of the week. So we'll start off with you, Dad. What was your best and biggest disappointment?
Well, my biggest disappointment is the Chicago Bears. there was talk coming into the season. Caleb Williams, we got all these weapons for, DJ Moore, drafted Roma Dunze, picked up from the Chargers.
Keenan. Allen.
Allen from the Chargers. And Cole Kmet, decent running backs. Swift.
Yeah.
Thought this offense was going to be great, or the potential to be at least pretty good. It started out slow, then it got a little bit better. They're playing decent, and now in the last 3 weeks, ever since that Hail Mary against Washington, it's just slowly gotten worse and worse and worse. And a lot of people are blaming Caleb Williams, and he's part of it. He's big part of it.
Yeah.
But Ryan Poles, who I think is a Rochester guy, is the GM there, and he did great with all these position players, but what he didn't do is address that offensive line.
Yep.
And it is absolutely horrible. So I don't see any way how you can assess whether Caleb Williams is good or bad. He got sacked 9 times yesterday.
Jeez.
By the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
How is he going to be? He has no time to do anything. So you don't know if he's going to be good or not, but I know what he's going to be. This happened to David Carr for Houston Texans a long time ago, Derek Carr's brother. They drafted him with a high draft pick, number 1 or 2 overall, whatever it was back then. And he got sacked like this game after game after game after game, and it ruined him. He never did anything after that because he was just – once that happens to a quarterback, all they see is that rush, and it can ruin a quarterback. I just hope that the Bears don't ruin Caleb Williams before he even gets a chance to start. That's my biggest disappointment. And my top performance of the week, I got to give it to the Ole Miss Rebels and their quarterback, Jackson Dart. Erasing some demons. They got absolutely pummeled by Georgia last year. This year, not the case. They put it on Georgia. They controlled that game pretty much from start to finish. And Jackson Dart went out of the game with an injury, comes back in, plays, didn't play phenomenal, but he played solid and led that team to a victory. They're my top performance of the week.
All right. Well, those are some good choices. So for my biggest disappointment, honestly, the Houston Texans is mine. I mean, that defense does so well. Forces five turnovers alone off Jared Goff. And then you end up losing that game because of the offense. I just think that should have been a win for Houston. And it didn't turn out that way because of the offense. That defense did all they could. And now, for my biggest performance, it's going to be a player, not a team. And a losing effort, Jamar Chase. He played amazing on Thursday. 11 receptions, over 250 yards, along with 3 touchdowns.
Can't do any better than that. Unbelievable play by him. Yeah. He might be the top performer.
Yeah.
He said, but unfortunately didn't get the win. But.
Let's move on now to our plays of the week. Coming from Steelers in Washington for our first play of the week. Russell Wilson heaves one with the rush coming. Caught! Touchdown, Steelers! Mike Williams in his first game in the black and yellow.
What a play from Wilson. He throws that deep ball so well. Then Williams with the catch. Game winner.
Hey, Rodgers, did he run the red line that time?
I think he did.
What a play. Steelers win. Coming from Denver and Kansas City, a 35-yard attempt. And looking to give the Chiefs their first loss on the 2024 campaign. Will Lutz lining it up. The kick is up, and it is blocked! It is blocked by the Chiefs! Time expires, they fall on it, and they win and advance to 9-0!
Unbelievable. They just seem to win when they shouldn't win. It's getting hard to watch, I gotta be honest with you.
Wow, what a win.
Did you see Mahomes on the sideline holding his shoulder pads before that? He was like, well, we're losing this one.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Once again from Steelers and Commanders, Wilson takes the snap. Looking end zone shot to his jump ball guy, Pickens. And he's got it. Touchdown, Steelers.
how did he make that catch?
I feel like that's the question we ask every week with this guy. He amazes us in a different way every single week. And look at the body adjustment to make this catch.
Unbelievable catch. Like you said, he does it every week, but
Coming from Eagles and Jaguars from last week. We didn't get to do this one, so I really want to include it in this week. Hurts throws a check down to Saquon Barkley. Jukes, spins, backwards hurdle, and he's down at the 30. I've never seen that before, ever.
watch the replay on this. It is crazy.
The spin, and he backwards hurdles. How?
You think the Giants wish they still had him?
I don't know, perhaps. After that one, for sure. Well, Dad, that'll do it for this week's podcast. But can't leave without predictions. So the 2 NFL games next week we're going to predict: Chiefs, Bills, and then the Steelers and the Ravens.
2 big ones. Chiefs, Bills, 4:30, Orchard Park, New York. Pains me to say this. I'm going Bills. I don't like either team, but I think Bills got them. Close. Probably lower scoring than you think, too.
Yeah, probably.
I'm going to say 20-17 Bills.
All right. And then my prediction for that game: give me the Bills. Give me the Bills. Let's go a close game, 24-20.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
And then our next game, Dad, who do you got?
Ravens, Steelers. Is there any doubt who I'm going with on this one?
I can see it on your shirt.
Steelers have owned the Ravens the last few years, swept them last year. Lamar has never beaten the Steelers, ever.
0-7.
So he's due, but not this week. In Pittsburgh, I got the Steelers in a slugfest. I'm going to go 17-13.
Alrighty, so now, let's see. I got the Steelers, of course. I think we win 23-10.
I like that. I hope you're right.
Or actually, I'll give the Ravens some. Let's go 23-13.
All right.
That'll do it for today's podcast. I am Preston alongside my father, Mike, and we will see you next week.